Hi everyone. This is uh, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya uh, National Mission on Training Teachers. This is our series 2 and this is from February 21 to 28. This is day 2 and we have uh, Data Center Telco Communication Transformation and session 2A uh, being conducted by uh, our expert from Dell, GaneshHiregoudar. And to give a background about Ganesh, he is a PhD in public healthcare in IT, and he has been a, quietly organizing the open source movement, starting from the good old uh, FOSS days, and later in 2000s, he was at the time working for Sun Microsystem. He switched to EMC and did a lot of good work in the storage area and joined in the network area through Airship with bare metal and various other operations, including uh, support for the VMware Tanzu, telco cloud architecture. And so he has a very wide experience in the data center usage across the board. And as a he's back in Dell now as part of the infrastructure automation for edge and building solutions to telcos. So with such a vast experience, we find him that he has been one of our key members in the OTF transformation through technology. And I will leave it to Ganesh to talk about the next generation of data center, which is his topic for the day. Go ahead. Welcome, Ganesh. It's your to take. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prakash, for your very well organized event and the introduction about me. I'm always honored and excited to be associated with this particular engagement and also talking to the faculties. So today's session is on the next generation data center. So as part of this topic, I would like to touch base on the emerging technologies, very quick overview about the data center, what kind of a evolution has happened from the traditional data center to the next generation data center, what kind of a challenges what the technology folks as well as the CIOs are facing, and then some kind of a data center movement is going on, where to store and what needs to be done. And also before we get into the open source movement, I will be showing one of the use cases which we have. And definitely feel free to ask any questions either online or offline. Happy to support and discuss against this particular topic. So looking forward, as we have been talking about the data centers, as we have been talking about a lot of data analysis, in last 1 minute, if you notice, just to give some statistics, not exactly, don't count me these exact numbers, but just to highlight some of these statistics, millions of emails have been sent and some thousands of hours listened in the Pandora box or the iPhone or some jukebox, what we have, right? And also the 20 million photo views, hundred thousands of tweets and millions of views, as well as the Facebook logins have been created, and millions of Google searches as we speak right now, and millions of uploads in terms of photos, videos have been uploaded to the Instagram. So when we start seeing a whole bunch of stuff is going on in and around us, what exactly causing this? This is all about data. Each one of us have started hearing data is the next oil in the industry, right? So how do we foresee and then how we can see? Gartner report says what is the potential during 2025? 2 to 3 billion more people will get an access to the internet, right? That is an information age which we are talking about. The information is already out there. How do we access it? How do I make sure leverage this? That's where the 5 to 7 trillion potential economic impact happen to the knowledge workers. So this is kind of a knowledge worker driven economy, right? So when I say this, we were paying $100 per 1 hour of the cost and time to sequence when we develop a human genome in the next decade. What does it mean? Just to give an example, in India, at the Indian Institute of Science, we developed the supercomputer, right? That took years together to build that supercomputer. What we're talking about here is in the next decade, such supercomputers can be developed within no time, right? And having said that, 1.5 million driver caused deaths from car accidents in 2025 because of potentially addressable market with the autonomous vehicles are coming in. These things can be reduced then and there itself. And what is this 100 to 200% potential increase in the North American oil production by 2025? Right? That's because it's driven by the hydraulic fracturing in the horizontal drilling. So those days are gone wherein drilling is going to consume a lot of manpower and then the heavy machine is going to be used. It's all automation is driven. And you see 16% potential share of solar and wind. We're already started talking about global electricity generation by 2025. Right? Some of these statistics I just wanted to give a snip of what exactly happening in and around us. And coming just to build a story on top of this, what kind of an emerging technologies which you're looking into it? When we started looking into this, I thought let's bring in 4 different facets of this. One is how the internet is changing since the inception of internet 1995 onwards, and the physiological interaction, wireless arena, wireless broadband, and the pure technologies. If you look at the changing internet, starting from holographic storage devices to the voice over internet protocol, a lot has been changed, right? And then from the physiological interaction, we started with the Web 1.0, Web 2.0. It's all the dynamic interaction which you're talking about, right? Is there any way we can build the automatic speech recognition, speech therapy, right? The self-defense mechanism can be evolved through this. And wireless broadband mechanism, each one of us are already sitting at home and then you and I are interacting over the Zoom through offline mode, right? It's all happening through the wireless broadband communication, right? So some of the technologies which you are talking about through the wireless broadband is, it could be the wireless virtual reality, biometrics, haptic interfaces, implant chips, facial recognition software, right? All these things can be leveraged with the pure technology. What do you mean by pure technology, right? So near field communication, the NFCs, Bluetooth, all these technologies were existing 3-4 decades ago, right? If you look at the EMT, right, the electromagnetic waves and the electromagnetic technology has been started 4-5 decades ago. But did we really utilize it? No. That's how we started leveraging even the nanotechnology. RFIDs are started coming in. These technologies, with the help of these technologies, everybody wanted to get into how I can make use of the software as a service. That is the thrill of this emerging technologies, which I just wanted to connect the dots between the data points and the different technologies which we have. When I say this, emerging technologies, the way forward, how we work and what we do, how we live, how we communicate. To this particular point, a lot of urbanization is happening. One thing we should make sure, this pandemic has taught us all the way we work, the way we live, the way we interact amongst all of us, right? Everything is becoming remote, everything is online. Those days are going away in terms of I go to malls and then spend a lot of time and then shopping and then no. Click of a button, you can place an order and then get things done, right? So rural dynamics to the urban city. That's how this urbanization is happening. It is nothing but city as a customer. Mega cities are coming in, mega regions, and all these things are getting into our data center mode. I'll come to that, right? Idea of bringing this background is how we connect the dot from the existing infrastructure to the next level of next generation of the data centers, right? Smart is the new green. Each one of us started talking about smartphone. That's how things have started. from handheld devices, right? From the smartphone to smart home, right? Smart village, smart cities. It's all driven through the smart infrastructure and the smart technology which we're talking about. What do you mean by smart? Is there any way I can build an automation around it? Can I reduce the nitty-gritties of it? Can I reduce the problems which I'm facing today? Right? All these things are kind of connecting to my social trends. You and I have been very regular, maybe the Twitter or the LinkedIn or the Facebook or any of these social media enterprise which we have. But the underneath, where exactly we're storing the data, how are you getting communicated? So some of these different things which you have, all these things connecting to my economic trends, right? My GDP will go up and then my spending will go up. Connectivity and convergence. How do you converge with all these devices are coming in place, right? So if you look at the new way of doing things through the new business models, everybody start talking about value for money. Those days are gone. Value for many is becoming value for money. That's because people have started supporting each other, collaborating in the right direction. Competition is becoming negligible, right? That is the new mantra of the new business model. That's how we look into it. So this new pandemic has created the health, wellness, and well-being. A lot of focus has been shifted how the care is happening, right? And then even the home centering. All sorts of businesses, all sorts of activities are coming into your own home-based care. And in the Tech Vision 2020, it was driven during 2020 before this pandemic arrived. What kind of technologies might come in our way? As we speak, these technologies are already coming in our way. Just wanted to connect the dots. So when I say that, what is the hype cycle? What Gartner is already thinking ahead? Gartner has put together these 4 different quadrants. One is who are those critical enablers? The smart world, productivity revolution, ubiquitous and transparent security. When I start thinking about who are those critical enablers, look at the innermost circles. From innermost to the outer world. Outer world, you're completely talking about the collaborative ecosystem. 6G is already closer to us. AI generated composite applications are coming in. Right? In order to do this, how do you get your hyperscale edge computing? Then my next quadrant is talking about the smart world. We already spoke in the previous slide, smart spaces and smart home, smart urban cities are coming in, right? This has to be multimodal. Is there any way I can get the advanced virtual assistants? That's where the smart world is coming in. Everybody is connected. All trade, all kinds of businesses happen through online mechanism. When you do that, definitely security is becoming a key factor. That's where this third quadrant, productivity revolution. Edge AI is the center of attraction, but that has to be moved away from center to at the end, which is the self-supervised learning. All these AI-driven activities are happening in this quadrant. That's our future, right? And in the last quadrant, which I mentioned about the security aspects, passwordless authentication should happen. Homomorphic encryption or the digital ethics, right? All these different new technologies are coming in. It is just that how we can adapt to the data points connecting back to our own roots, right? That's when I wanted to bring back from emerging technologies to understand the data center concepts here. When you say the data center, data is at the core of whatever we just now mentioned, right? This will have the cloud computing, high-speed networking, software as a service, network security, virtualization, all these different components are revolving around the data center. When I say that, what do you mean by this data center? What do you mean by this cloud computing? Why are we differentiating both? Right? Cloud computing is possible because of the data centers. And cloud computing is often service provided by the data centers. And having said that, what do you mean by the data center? Data center will have these core components called server, storage, and network. Those three are the core components which we have anything which we talk about. It's like human brain. It has got heart, it has got legs to run. This is exactly where connecting the dot to the data center with our human intelligence into it. So having said that, what my data center can able to provide with the different applications? To do a conference, to do storage, shopping, learning, finance, right? Streaming the data. When I say the streaming, that's how this Netflix of the world is becoming core of our television systems. What do we have, right? All these programs are getting viewed through this. Next is coming back from the data center perspective, how we started, how we kind of evolved, right? So earlier, since I mentioned about the server, storage, and the network, these three components put together as a dedicated IT silos. What does it mean is I have one application that will be leveraged to do my own work. If some of you wanted to have to store some data, then definitely you will have your own compartment of the different servers. There's absolutely no connection. Even if I have the connection through the network, it will work as different entities altogether. How should I break this? Because it's a custom built solution which I have, right? If I'm at home, my home has got my own data center, which is still okay. But if I wanted to expose my data to the external world, then only you have to come out. That's where this consolidation is happening. Reduce my cost of putting my own data center. Instead, I get into the consolidated mode. Through that, I can lower my capex. Capital expenditure can be reduced through the virtualized servers. And also I will have the tiered SAN, storage area network, and also partial integrated management. Some level of consolidation is happened the next level, but that's not enough. Is there any way I can still reduce further? Then I went ahead, did the dynamic shared capacity. I have the tiered virtual servers. I have the storage optimized done, and also the integrated management and the security, so that I can provide the end-to-end solution to my customers with my limited budget, with the expanded mode of the capacity which I have. When I start talking about the next generation data center, I should be having infrastructure as a service, which is IaaS. PaaS is the platform as a service, and the software as a service, which is SaaS. That has to be 100% virtualized, and rationalization has to be done through my applications. Containers has to be built on top of this, right? I should have the tiered services. It should have the embedded security, and also the self-provisioned portal, self-provisioned, the data self-provisioned. Since I mentioned about the three components, network, storage, and the compute, that has to be self-provisioned. Then only I can reduce my cost. Then only I can bring in the transference to my existing portal. That's how you see the self-service portals all across. I made it as a private cloud, but when I start talking about the next generation data center, I wanted to make sure through this private cloud, given access to the public cloud, whatever the information which I wanted to release to the public. That's where the lot of focus is coming back into my hybrid cloud. So if you look at here, if I wanted to personalize my virtualization efforts by lowering my operational expenditure, by lowering my capital expenses, look at where it is going. If I make this happen, 95% of your entire work of the data center is virtualized. By doing this, you can definitely reduce your 80% of your capex, and 40% of OPEX can be reduced. This is a significant reduction. This is what we're talking about, the next generation data center. While doing this, some of the nitty-gritties which I just wanted to share with you. what kind of an opportunities which I looked into it. Based upon these opportunities, what could be our impacts? Opportunities which I saw, instead of working in the silos, instead of having the physical access, I wanted to virtualize. Make it platform dependent. Can I re-platform it? Make the hardware and software and applications remediation. Let's create a blueprint out of it. Now, allow the new application deployment. Have some kind of a consolidation. Do the converged infrastructure through this virtual desktop. All these different opportunities which I saw, then I started looking into what could be the impacts of this. From the disaster recovery point of view, right? Recovery time objective, which is RTO, recovery RPO, which is the recovery place objectives, place or the point objectives, which I'm looking into it. How best I can improve. Can I look into the performance improvements? Schedule may elongate, cost may increase. Additional outages also may be required when I start talking about the transformation from existing system to the next level. Okay, if that is the case, how the CIOs are looking into it? What is the paradigm shift from the CIO perspective? The business priorities are this, and my technology priorities are this. What are those business priorities? To me, deliver the business results to shareholders. Each one of the business owners always look into how best I can increase my share value, right? And improve the customer satisfaction and innovate. Can I reduce OPEX and CAPEX, cut maintenance costs, keep us competitive, improve employee productivity, right? Because here we deal with PPT, which is people, process, and the technology. That's very essential and need of the business to bring in the shareholder value up. In order to do this, what kind of a technology priorities which we have? Keeping the lights on, accelerating the business. When I say keeping the lights on, manage the current workloads. Do the rationalization of the applications. How do I update and migrations can be done through my hardware and the softwares? How do I reduce my cost? While reducing the cost, I wanted to protect my data. Right? In order to do that, I wanted to make sure optimize my workloads through the software defined. When I say software defined X, software defined storage, software defined network, software defined compute, all sorts of software defined data center I'm looking into here. Through that, I am going to utilize the new IT benchmarks to implement the cloud computing technologies. Okay, so just to give a glimpse of it, look into the data center, how it was looking earlier. Wires were all across and systems were spread across everywhere, right? So while doing this, what could be the business decision maker we're trying to do and the technical decision makers? Definitely the business decision maker thinking how best I can underutilize my existing infrastructure assets. I need to rethink my data center in order to consolidate and reduce my total cost of ownership. How should I give a facilitate for my business demand because of greater availability? And also I'm already thinking of rationalizing my M&A, which is merger and acquisitions. That's what the business people think, right? How about the technical guy thinking from the technology point of view? I don't have the right set of skills. That means I have to get the skilled folks. That's what each one of us are talking about, the skill enhancements. Skill management is the key today, right? I cannot say that I have every skills which is required in today's industry, not really. Each one of us has to upskill ourselves. I always go with this slogan called learn, unlearn, and then the relearn. This is the focus of what we have today, right? So that's why I just wanted to share how this current data center looks and then what kind of applications are running, what kind of issues which we bring in, right? In order to reduce that, how do I unify this data center by enabling these different workloads, virtualization, server, storage, network? Then I can able to manage all of this. When I manage all of this, my underneath is the integrated infrastructure of server, storage, networking, converged thing. And I build the virtualization on top of this. When I build the virtualization layer on top of this physical setup which I have, then I can have the automation engine running and then connect with whether it is virtual network functions or the container network functions, all these things can be taken care. Just to give you one OEM vendor here, since I'm associated with Dell. So Dell comes with a lot of third-party applications can be integrated without having any problems. That has to be connected from bare metal to till the application layer. It could be the private cloud or the hybrid cloud, supporting the enterprise applications or even the desktop virtualization. All these things can be done. Right? Just to give you the future ready enterprise, how it looks like. I should have the workload ready. I should have the virtual infrastructure and also the software defined and the cloud ready. This is how we look into it. What kind of a vendors I'm looking into it, from the software defined storage and software defined networking, connecting to this particular, I am looking into it. It should support open disaggregated platform, period. It has to be vendor agnostic. It has to be open. That's where this particular platform is supporting, even with the software defined computing with these different vendors. Just wanted to highlight and then share with you, right? So, but having said that, SDC, the software defined data center, which delivers the needed agility and efficiency. When I say this, the software defined data center has to be vendor specific network, integrated storage on the x86 platform, and it has to run any application. You see here hardware defined as well as software defined. What kind of benefits I get out of this? Through innovation, through flexibility and ease of deployment. Right? If I wanted to bring any kind of an agility and efficiency, just wanted to give again one more view of evolution of the data centers, starting from mainframe centralized to the edge data centers and the distributed mode which we have today. Our journey has started, as we all understand, right? As a computer science engineers and the faculties here, I need not have to tell all of you how we started here. Just wanted to give a glimpse of this. In 1946, that's how this ENIAC first computer was started by the US Army, right? And then 1951, this is becoming the automatic computer. 1960, some kind of large size machines have been developed, right? 1971, Intel has introduced the first processor 4004. 1980 onwards, personalized computer has been introduced. During 1990, that is when the modern data center has started coming up through the microcomputers, filling in the old mainframes. And in the mid 90s and the 2000, during 2000, that's when the dot-com burst happened. That has evolved. The VMware started emerging during that time. How do I virtualize the servers? How do I virtualize the data, compute, network, all of that, right? And during 2006, Amazon has introduced Amazon Web Services, offering the IT infrastructure services. In 2007, modular data centers have been introduced, right? Modular is nothing but it's like a plug and play kind of a concept, right? During 2008, the focus has been shifted. Is there any way I can put the green data center, sustainable way? Focus on the power efficiency, cooling technologies, and management of the facilities. Facebook has launched their own compute project during 2011. 2013, Google also invested the massive data center expansion of it. 2019 onwards, everybody started talking about the edge data centers before this pandemic. Since we are almost entering into the era of 5G technologies and the RAN technologies, radio access network is coming up, right? How this edge data centers in the distributed way is going to play a major role. throw across into the different activities, whether it is a healthcare, whether it is an education, banking sector, any of the high demanding data which we have, which we're consuming today, this will transform our existing setup which we have, right? Just wanted to give a glimpse of it, what kind of sizes of the data centers, micro data center, small, micro, the size is very small, one rack, power is just 100 kilowatt, right? And then the small data center will have a power of 1 megawatt here, right? The size is some kind of a cottage, it's at a home, that's that size, right? Third is the medium co-location data center. Co-location is nothing but I have my own task and you have your own task. Can I work together? It's kind of a pay as you go, but I will not be hosting my data center. Instead, I will be hosting my data centers in somebody else's space. But that it is that big, right? And next we went into large co-location data center, which is about 50 megawatts here. And then when it comes to the hyperscaler data center, size is so big, the largest currently being built is approximately as big as Vatican City. 57 football fields, that's how the people are thinking about it, that big, 100 million watts, right? This will have the co-location, computing capacity for all the major global networks which you have been seeing. This is the massive scale which we are talking about, right? After looking at the size of the data centers, how this data center transformation is happening. Idea is lower power and cooling costs. Can I reduce the facilities footprint? Can I increase my asset efficiency? Can I optimize technology by using the application rehosting? This is kind of a tactical to strategic, right? That is how we have been looking into it. That is when I move towards the different perspective of the next generation data centers. When I move that, what kind of a risks which I'm kind of going through this? One is obviously the resources, the kind of staff which I have, they will not have the skills to do it. Second is the scheduling. When I can migrate, weekend, why weekend? That's because people are already consuming my data center. But in today's modern data center which I have, I don't want to do that. Vendor commitments, again the people, the quality, the number of people which I have, schedule dates, what kind of roles and responsibilities, and is there any facility which I'm able to look into it. The next is the business expectations. What are my business expectations, right? It has to be low business value, the high risk, minimal downtime, introduce the change during the move, managing the resource requirements, mitigating the impact of business. I am not in a position to wait for days together or weeks together to move my one server to another server for co-location activities or from migration kind of an activities. That kind of modern data centers which we're talking about, right? So just to give another aspects of the data centers, these days data centers have been, say, look at this, liquid immersed servers. Servers have been immersed in the liquid, right? Because just to cool off, adiabatic cooling, this is another way of cooling stuff. Microsoft already planned to operate under the sea. Their data center, they wanted to throw inside the ocean and then cool it off. Some thinking that fan wall cooling, right? So just to show this, I wanted to show this particular video so that just to get a glimpse of what Dell EMC is thinking about from the modular data center perspective. hope that has some clarity on looking into the modular data centers, how these guys are storing, and then how they're kind of concising the existing data centers, and then the what kind of an applications they are running, how they are kind of automating all those things. The different technology vendors are already started doing it, right? So just wanted to highlight about some of the open source projects which is going on. Something called the LAMP to Loki. Loki is the Linux OpenStack Kubernetes infrastructure. So earlier we used to work on a lot of stuff on the LAMP stack. That's because it has got the standard for deploying the web applications, but that was not enough, right? The Loki is kind of helping operators to identify the successful patterns and combinations of technologies to build production infrastructure. So the idea of Loki or any of the open source projects which I wanted to highlight here is today's trend. If you look at the telcos, right, which I was talking about, so telcos will help us to bridge the gap between the digital divide from the rural to urban. In the beginning of our session, I was already talking about urbanization, customized service, and that kind of a thing, right? So if I wanted to connect those dots, 5G technology will definitely bring in this digital divide. That's number one. So while doing that, even in Indian context, we have these three major players, whether it is Reliance Jio, Airtel, or the Bharti and the Vodafone Idea. Right? These three big players which are already kind of testing the 5G spectrum, and it has to be rolled out anytime soon by March, April timeframe. So having said that, these applications will be leveraged through over-the-top OTT infrastructure, or it has to be through the satellites or any kind of an infrastructure which we have, right? So from the data center point of view, the edge is here to stay. Edge is the one edge computing, the MEC, which is the multi-access edge computing, which we're talking about. So using this, how best I can containerize it? How best I can leverage the open source or the proprietary applications and the technologies which I have, right? So in order to build my next data centers or bring in the broadband technologies, which our next speaker, the TV Ramchandran, is going to talk about it, right? So more importantly, the takeaway from this particular session, before I could end this session, so probably I can ask Prakash to add one or two points about this particular session so that it will be helpful for you. And any questions to hear from you? Thank you.
Thanks, Ganesh.
Prakash?
Fantastic presentation, and it covered very broad range of topics, and especially for the next generation data center. The reason you have already mentioned data center is at the center of everything. You need compute, you need storage, you need networking all across, whether you do 5G or you do no G. Uh, Everything requires kind of a data center and connectivity.
Right.
So, given that, what I would say that in the next generation, one of the bottlenecks you mentioned is about the power. And I have heard from the previous day speaker, Som, that is Piyush Somani, ESDS,
Mhm.
CCICI is also the MD of CCICI. So he mentioned that the only option for now, for next at least couple of years, is how do we make it green? So green is the name of the data center of next generation because of power limitation. Uh, how do you see that? He mentioned that within 15 data center close by at Mahape in Mumbai, he's seeing a requirement of 3 gigawatts. So uh, it's going to be 100 gigawatts by 2025 in India overall.
Yeah.
So power is one thing which we will have to focus on. That means cost optimization is one, power optimization is second, miniaturization is another, because you have the cost of. So the three factors still which were valid couple maybe a decade back still hold true. The only thing is how the form of it, how the density of it is changing. So I'm glad that you brought to light uh, fantastic documents from all over you have brought in. And if you want to have something on the uh, sides of security or anything, because that is one thing which will always be there. If you want to have some say on that, let me know. Do
Okay.
you think you want to speak about security? Because that is, cyber security is a clear threat to everything.
Correct. Yes. So when it comes to the security aspects, Prakash, as I was saying, the edge computing here to stay, right? So majority of the smartness in terms of the smart home or the smart city projects or the smart computing which we're talking about, it has to be revolved around with the security aspects. What I mean is, if I don't have the right set of tools, if I don't have the right set of skills, if I don't have the right kind of a technologies which I'm not leveraging it, security is definitely going to be a threat for the anything which we do today, right? So major focus even not necessarily even on the cyber security, right? It has to be even the physical asset of my own data centers. How do I store this? Even the documentation. At least in Indian context, we have the DigiLocker, right? Why I need to store these documents in the DigiLocker? During my research, I came to know, even though we have the DigiLocker, it is not that safe. We don't have the blockchain mechanism is being implemented. It is not. That itself is an opportunity for us to develop such kind of an applications, which is need of the hour. Aadhaar is connected to all across, right? How best I can make it secure? How best I can integrate all these different applications which I have? I know for sure NIC is doing their level best to connect these dots, but that's not enough. That itself is a lot of opportunity for each one of us to contribute back to the community at large.
Excellent. All said right, because we need our research folks to focus on the priorities of the nation as to how we can secure, how we can make it reliable, how the data center is the key piece, how to connect
Correct.
the university networks, how to connect the rural panchayat network, etc. So we will be
Yes.
hearing about this, etc., from our next speaker, TV Ramchandran, uh, president of the Broadband Forum. At this time, we are running out of time. I would like to close and give a big clap to Ganesh for doing this excellent presentation on data center. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so
And
much, Prakash,
that
for
will
giving me
close.
this
And
opportunity.
yep,
Looking forward to hear more from you and this entire team.
thank you,
Bye.
Ramesh. Bye.